What's up, YouTube family? We are back in the armory. We had a package today come in, and we're talking about barrel stilts. Precisely what you see on this AK style rifle right here. These are barrel stilts. Specifically, these are UUQ bipods. Had to get the air quotations out because anybody that's actually going to try to use something like this as a bipod, you're going to be sadly disappointed. Just for schnitz and giggle, I did take these out one time and tried to use them as a bipod. They just aren't going to work. I think you could get probably maybe 30-40 rounds through before you start running into issues with these as an actual bipod. And when I say bipod, I mean you actually drop them down and try using them the way that a bipod would be used. I don't suggest that. Good thing that's not why I bought these. So these are badged UUQ. These were $30. These were my prototype barrel stilts. The bipod that I actually use is a Fab Defense bipod right here. I have a little button here. This releases the bipod. I have one right here. It's exactly how it works. The reason I would use this as a bipod is because it's quick release. This drops down instantly. By the time I get into a crouch or by the time I get to the ground, this is going to be deployed. These do turn and twist, so they are a functional bipod, and I have used these a lot. They're steel reinforced in here. They're solid, and they make for an awesome hand grip, especially if you have bigger hands. So these things just work for me all around. And if I were to ever ponder using a bipod in an actual firefight, these are the only things that I could see myself really using because they drop so quick. Aside from that, I think you'd be too busy trying to shoot back and get cover to actually deploy any sort of real bipod. Now, if you are target shooting, if you are shooting competition, that's a whole different rigmarole. I get these specifically because they are so functional and because they serve a dual purpose here, so these work for me. But back to these UUQ things, they are a lot cheaper. Specifically for this, I knew I wasn't going to use these as bipods, so I bought them for the purpose of making them barrel stilts. I was actually going to seize these things up. I was going to use some Loctite or something so they were just stuck in this position. They couldn't move at all. So they worked fundamentally for me. They worked. I wanted better lockup, but as far as kind of an experiment thing goes, these things work. I can drop the front end of my rifle down onto the ground. My barrel's not going to get dirty. I've actually used this rifle as a walking stick. It supports the weight. So it's really nice to just be able to drop the front end of your gun down without worrying about getting your barrel dirty, right? So I wanted to improve upon this. These UUQ things weren't going to cut it unless I was willing to put in some work and seize them up. I personally don't really like the contraption they have right here. It just leaves too much room for wiggle. So I found something better. These are going to be my new barrel stilts. I'll be honest with you, these were a gamble. I found something similar on Optics Planet, and they wanted like $50-$60 for them. I almost got a pair of them just to check out, but I quickly realized that they have a lot of plastic on them. So I canceled that order. I did not want these plastic. I wanted these to be preferably aluminum. That way they're sturdy as they need to be. And you know, that's what these are. These are all solid aluminum. A little bit of steel reinforcement. They're not too bad. They're not extremely heavy. I can already tell that these are going to do a better job than the UUQs that I have. And the best part was, these were only $20. Now you got to score them on eBay, and that's why I'm saying it was a gamble. I didn't know if these were going to come through or not. I also ordered 2 of them just in case my gamble paid off, and it did. So these came in today. I'm pretty happy with them, actually. They're much better than the UUQs. They cost $10 less. Now, of course, these things don't have a name brand. I couldn't even tell you how to find these things. So I'm glad my order paid off and I got both of them, because I don't know how I'm going to get more of these. I could probably go on my eBay and I could find the individual that sold me this, and I could probably order more from them. But what's cool about this, these just pull out and they snap out just from you pulling, right? You guys can see how this works, right? We have this lever here that just goes in there, holds them in place, right? And it's all spring loaded, so when I'm ready to retract these, boom. So works very easy. Just pull on them and they come out, and hit that one button, they go back in. They also have a more solid lockup system here. These grooves here are a lot better for this pin to go into. The UUQ ones that I have, these holes are a lot more shallow, and this thing kind of rocks in them a little bit. These have very solid lockup. You're barely going to get any movement compared to the other ones that I have. So we'll see how they do. I'm really not too worried about these because I hardly ever actually operate these. I just leave them sticking out. Now, it is nice to be able to close them. I will say that. I've noticed that as far as fitting these into a gun bag. Pretty much, these are going to go on my AR-10, something like this. They're going to sit here. If you notice, these come out a little bit past the barrel. And if anything, I'm probably going to click them out one, somewhere out here. And I'm going to leave them like this. They're going to hang out like, what, 3/4 of an inch past the barrel. So I can drop this gun to the ground. It'll sit on these stilts instead of my barrel eating concrete. I think these are going to work really well, right? So the UUQs are probably going to get swapped out with this other pair, right? But you can make this a setup like this out of any bipod that you want. I'm using air quotations because you're probably going to want to use the cheapest one that you can possibly find, right? I mean, these don't really need to be functional. The more functional a bipod is, the more money you pay, right? If your bipod actually has a freaking suspension system where you can tilt and turn and do all these things, and there's spring load of this and that, they just cost more money. And I mean, you're only using these as stilts for your barrel. So I would suggest finding something aluminum like this if you're gonna try for something like this. Find it for as cheap as you can. They don't necessarily need a name brand because you're not really doing much with them, right? You just want a solid M-lock lockup, which all these things are going to have. It's not hard to make nowadays. I will say this too, for a lot of rifles, having a little bit of weight hanging out past your barrel, it's actually going to do wonders for taming your rifle down. You're going to have less barrel rise because it's more weight that is pushing around out here. So, I mean, to each their own. Some people really complain about weight. I really don't notice much of a weight difference at all with these on here, right? So, I'm going to keep dropping barrel stilts on all of my longer rifles. Here's a Mark 18 right here. There's no such thing on it. There's no need to put barrel stilts on it. I am not dropping this into the mud. This is a light, short rifle. It's probably just going to hang off of me. But when you get into like the AR-10, the 308s, the longer, the 16-inch barrel minimum, 18-inch barrels, 20-inch barrels, even an AK style rifle, especially if you got the full modern tactical handguard, it weighs a little bit more. It is so nice to just, oh, done shooting, there you go. I also do this a lot at the range. I will just drop this, you know, the rifle will just lean up against me as I'm doing whatever I'm doing in my booth. It's also nice to just be able to drop your rifle up against the wall, right? Just boom. I highly suggest this for home defense because to defend your home, it's nice to be able to walk into any room that you want to and just plop your rifle down up against the wall. A lot of people do this by putting the buttstock on the floor and having the barrel sticking up. I think that is a terrible idea for all sorts of reasons. I also think it's a terrible reason to have your barrel digging into the concrete or into the dirt. We go out of our ways to have free floating handguards that aren't stressing our barrels or touching them, or you really don't want to be touching your barrel at all, actually. So it just doesn't make any sense to me to put pressure on your barrel and, you know, plug the end up with dirt or whatever. So this is why I do this. It works very well for me. Try it out if you get a chance. It might only cost you 20 bucks if you can find something like this on eBay and get your package in the mail, right? The other thing is too, don't be scared to get creative, right? I'm gonna mount these exactly like you would think they would go, but if you wanted to, for the look, for whatever, you could mount them backwards, right? It's not going to matter as long as you can drop this to the ground and the stilts catch it before the barrel. I'm going from the bottom here like this because I want my stilts to be hanging below the barrel. The reason I'm doing that is because that's obviously the first part to touch down on the ground. So I want them hanging beneath my barrel. So that's the way I'm doing it. But don't be scared to mix it up. Try different things. Remember, these are Legos for adults. You can always just take the screws out, put them in whichever way works for you. So, yeah, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And like and support if you can. YouTube is terrible for any sort of arts and crafts videos like this. So, any of your support goes a long way. Have an awesome day. I will see you on the flip side. Stay safe, everyone.